Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. I have a very fun video for you guys that's long overdue. I haven't crafted for you guys and showed you guys any different projects in such a long time, and I am so excited to share these with you. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 different DIYs that you can do with commonly found items at the thrift store. Seriously, I love thrifting, and whenever I go there's always the same sort of things, and I wanted to take some of those common items and show you easy ways that you can upcycle them yourself at your house. But before we get into that video, make sure that you subscribe down below. If you're new here, I do make videos every single Wednesday on DIYs, lifestyle. I pretty much am a maker of everything, food, crafts, all of those sorts of things. So if any of those interest you, definitely make sure that you subscribe down below. And as you watch this video, let me know which DIY is your favorite and which one you want to try for yourself. But without further ado, let's get crafting. Okay, so we're diving into our first thrifted DIY here. So actually I got this frame from my parents' room, but I've seen so many things like this at like Goodwill and just random thrift stores, so you can really do this with anything. So I wanted to make this a little bit more trendy and do something that I've seen a lot on like TikTok and Instagram, just all over the place. So first I'm going to be separating everything, and I'm going to be measuring out my different inserts. Here I'm using some thick cardstock because I wanted it to be thicker than paper. You could also use like cardboard or something like that, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm just making sure everything fits. But I would recommend that you actually make it a little bit bigger than what the size of your hole is, if that makes sense. That way you have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of like your design and stuff like that. So I'm going to be using this spackling here. I picked it up from Menards. I got the kind that comes in like this pink color, and it turns white when it's dry. So it's actually really convenient. It usually takes a few hours, but I'm going to be applying this. I have a little piece of cardboard, like a little scrap. I'm starting with an even layer, and I'm making sort of like a wave detail. I kind of wanted to make this more of like a beach vibe, so that's what I was going for, but obviously you can do anything you want. So I'm just doing a bunch of different techniques here, moving my cardboard in different ways, and later you'll see that I have this little homemade cardboard tool that I use to make little grooves in it. So this is where you can get really, really creative and pretty much do whatever you'd like. Now that I have a design that I'm happy with, I'm going to set them aside to let them dry completely. So now we're going to be moving on to the other parts of this frame, and the actual frame itself is what we're going to be doing first. I'm taking some coarse grit sandpaper and just giving it a good sand to sort of get the sheen off of it and really help my paint to stick. So now is where you can choose any color you want. As I said, I'm going for like a beach sort of theme. So I use some beach sort of colors like tans, whites, and if you don't really know much about color, you may see that I drop a little bit of green in there. On the color wheel, brown is a form of red. The, I want to say complementary color is what it's called, to red is green, and that helps it to dull a little bit and soften it. And once I have a sort of color that I really like, I'm just going to layer it over my frame. The sort of paint that I'm using here is an acrylic. I use Americana. I like folk art. It's not my favorite. I definitely prefer Americana. Those are the sorts of paint that I used, and I'm just going to set that aside. I did another coat on that off camera, and same with this little inset here. I did, I believe, just a white on this. I wanted it to look really clean, and again, I'm going to be doing 2 coats on this, but I did the second coat off camera just because you can see a little bit of patchiness, and I want it to look as high-end as possible. So now I'm going to be mixing up the paints for my plaster. As I said, this takes quite a few hours to dry. This is sped up. So now I'm just putting together all my blue colors. My plaster is now completely dry, and I'm going through and doing all kinds of different techniques. First, I sort of went in with my brushes and did like a solid coat on different things with my different tones of blues. I also did some like dry brushing. I did some different techniques that you see me do here. I'll be using like a fan brush to sort of make some waves and like make it look realistic. You can really do whatever you'd like. It really depends on your color combination and the sort of theme that you're going for. Once I'm happy with my design, I'm going to set that off to the side to allow the paint to dry completely. And once they are dry, we're going to start assembling it. I wanted to make this part as simple as possible, so we're actually just going to be using some masking tape to sort of adhere it to the back. Honestly, nobody will know. It's going to be inside the frame. It's going to look just as high-end and beautiful. It's going to be 10 times easier on you. So now we're just going to be putting everything in. I laid everything out, made sure everything was exactly how I wanted it to be. And now that they are secured, we're going to be putting in the glass and then the cardboard insert that goes in the back. Now this DIY is complete. It's so beautiful. It's beachy. It's clean. It's elevated. It has texture. It's so gorgeous. You can do this with any sort of frame, whether it has a few different inserts or just one big picture. You can do so much with this. But yes, this DIY is super easy, super fun. I cannot recommend it enough. So the second DIY here is super easy. I see old shelves like this all the time at like Goodwill and thrift stores. So I thought I would come up with something really easy to do to flip this completely. So first I'm starting with the shelf itself, and I'm using a high grit sandpaper to take off the finish and a little bit of the color. I'm going for a little bit of a sage color here. Again, I'm using some acrylic paints, and I am mixing up a sort of sage green color because it's going to be going in our bathroom, and that's sort of the accent color in there. And once I was happy with the color, I started to apply it to the shelf. When you sand down a surface like this that's shiny, it helps the acrylic paint to stick. So I went over that, and I did do 2 coats of this, but I did it off camera, and it is so cute. It seriously fits so well above the toilet in our bathroom. It really brings in some color. It really makes it feel like a new piece, and if you do it in a fun accent color, I think that's even better. It's so pretty. I seriously love this. If it doesn't end up in our bathroom, I'm definitely going to like sell this or something, because somebody definitely deserves to have this, because it's so pretty. I love this DIY. So easy. You should definitely try it for yourself. Next, we're doing another trend that I've seen all over the internet, and I wanted to try it for myself, and it worked beautifully. You can find vases like this and really any sort of vase at thrift stores, and I'm first going to start by sanding it down with my same coarse grit sandpaper to really give the acrylic paint something to stick to. I ended up actually rinsing it off to get all of that grit off of it and giving it a really nice sort of base to stick to. So first I'm going to be starting by creating my off-white color. Again, make sure you make enough, and I'm just adding in a little bit of green and brown, and now I'm going to be adding in some baking soda. I didn't really find a specific ratio that works well for this. You just kind of add as much as you'd like, sort of show you the consistency here, but I ended up putting in about 2 tablespoons or so. I just really wanted to get that nice thick texture without being super thick, and now I'm just going to be applying that onto the vase. Again, I ended up doing 2 coats of this, and you can see the different texture. It's so beautiful. And now we're going to be taking some painter's tape. You could probably use masking tape as well. And I wanted to do it based off of something I saw on Pinterest, a sort of abstract, very modern sort of look. So I made sure that everything was tight around the edge. And now we're going to be doing another different color. So I set a little bit of that off-white off to the side, and now I'm making a little bit more of a deeper tan color to sort of be that modern touch. So I ended up adding a little bit of more baking soda as well, just because I added more paint, and now we're going to be applying that to the vase. As you can see, there were some spots on that vase where the off-white wasn't completely covered, but I knew it was going to be covered by the tan, so I wasn't worried at all. Now I'm going to take some ground pepper. It sounds so weird, but I'm going to sprinkle it on to the wet paint, and it just brings such a beautiful aged textured sort of look. And then you're just gonna peel off that paint, and I touched up all of my little spots that needed it with the off-white and also that tan color. So beautiful. It's very boho, but it's just so organic and beautiful. It can be done with anything. You can do any sort of look, color. There's so many different things you can do. I love this vase. If you do any of these DIYs, this one I highly recommend. So easy. Paint and baking soda, that's it. So, so beautiful. All right, that's going to be the end of today's video. I'm seriously in love with this video. Make sure that you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as much as I had fun making it. If you want more of these videos, again, comment below and let me know which one is your favorite, which of these DIYs you would try for yourself. And yeah, make sure that you subscribe down below for more videos like this. And that is everything. I will see you guys next Wednesday in my next video. Bye.